Alright, fellas, today we're going to be doing a guide on how to play the Roman factions in Rome Total War Remastered. For each faction, I'm going to go over a brief campaign overview, tips and tricks, and a step-by-step guide of how I achieved victory with each faction. Let's get started with the Julii. As the Julii, your goal is to get rid of Gaul and hold 15 settlements for the short campaign victory, which is what we're going to be focusing on. You can play after that, but you got to get the short campaign victory to get the long campaign victory. So if you look at the faction selection screen, you'll see that Gaul covers a pretty large area. It's pretty much the entirety of modern-day France with a settlement in Spain and then a couple of settlements right here in northern Italy. And you are immediately right in contact with Gaul. You're not at war with them, but you should be at war with them within the first couple of turns. Now, the way I play this is you're given two starting armies here. One of them, this is very easily able to take Segesta here without any issues at all. So that's what you should do. I'd give you another option, but really, you should just do this. It's Peasants and Warband. You should be able to take that very easily. After you've taken Segesta, you've got two settlements up here controlled by Gaul. You've got Batavium and you've got Mediolanum. Luckily for you, neither of them are guarded very well. So what you should do is take a turn, maybe a couple of turns. You've got two good Histati units here that you can just incorporate into this army. You've got the remnants of this army, which you shouldn't have taken too many casualties. You've got a leader here that you can take out and bring into the army, and your public order will be fine. You've got a lot of forces, and so what you should do is push in and take Batavium and Mediolanum pretty soon, because they are good cities and they will help produce good armies for you if you get them quickly. If you can get Batavium, Mediolanum, Arretium, and Ariminum? Yeah, I think that's how you say it. These four cities will be a great center of production for you. Okay, I've switched over to my completed Julii campaign just so you can see where all the settlements are, but after you've taken Mediolanum and Batavium, what you should do is move your armies out to take Luvavum or Iovivum. I can't tell if that's an I. That's an I for sure. And Segestica, because they are both rebel settlements that aren't defended very well, and you can easily snatch them. And that will help increase your currency, your money value, which is always good, and that'll help you put more into your core production. And if you can, it's a little bit of a long shot, you can also send an army down over here to take Massilia and Lugdunum, because they are both rebel settlements as well. However, usually Gaul kind of gets their act together a little bit and has taken them if you go for these two first. But I think going for these two first are really important, because otherwise Dacia can kind of come in and take them, and then you've got to deal with them and attacking Batavium. And like I said, Batavium's a production, so you don't want that city to get shut down. So if Dacia attacks, which they did, that's why this guy is all the way over here, they'll attack these worthless settlements that produce some money, but they really don't do anything for you in the end. And so after you've taken those rebel settlements and you've come over here, you kind of just steamroll through Gaul. Gaul had, at this point, if you go quickly, really just has war bands. They'll have a couple of units of swordsmen. They'll have like one unit of druids who are pretty good in Alesia and in Numantia, but for the most part, their armies are not very good at the beginning. If you get a lot of equity, like look at this army over here. Dacia has a similar build to Gaul, and this army is entirely Histati and Equites. That's like pretty basic Roman units, and it just steamrolls them because warbands rout so quickly. If you get them with one good charge, they just rout, and then you'll win the battle, and you can just clean them up for the rest of it. So you just kind of go all the way through Gaul. Narmo Marshes falls easily. Lemanum and this Armorica settlement fall really quickly because they're just kind of nothing settlements. Alesia will have a garrison, and you'll have to deal with it a little bit, but it'll fall pretty easily as well. I mean, look at it. I had some archers and some principes, and Triarii. So this was a pretty good army, but it was also only 11 units, and it took it pretty easily. Now, one thing you want to be careful of is Germania, Britannia, and as I mentioned before, Dacia. You've got to be sure that you don't overstep your bounds. In a lot of games, Gaul will have an alliance with Britannia or Germania, and occasionally Dacia, but Dacia usually just attacks anyway. But so you got to be careful that you attack them at a time where you won't drag in Germania or Britannia. Like in this game, Britannia, it says Germania over here, but you can see that Britannia has taken over Germania. So they're a powerhouse. I don't want to get into a fight with them while I'm trying to wrap up Gaul. I've got armies all over the place. I have to send an army down through here to take this last Gallic settlement, Numantia, which is just kind of out of the way from most of Gaul. That's usually the last settlement you'll take. And like I said again, not a great army, but it got the job done. And Julii, that's pretty much the Julii campaign. You get this center of production and the rebel settlement surrounding it, and you just kind of steamroll through Gaul until you win victory worthy of a true Roman. As Julii, you get rid of Gaul, and usually the last one is Numantia, and you win. The Brutii campaign is all about Greece. You have to have 15 settlements and have eliminated the Greek cities and Macedon. And the best way to go about that is, again, the best first move is to follow the Senate and to take out Apollonia. You can kind of just send this first army over. This is even worse defended, or I guess it's better, but you've got a better army and you can deal with it better. I usually just drop this guy off and he deals with it, and then I bring the other guys over like a turn later. And again, you're fine, so it's very easy. Okay, I've switched over to my completed Brutii campaign again, just to give you a feel for where all the cities are and what you should do. The next move I'd recommend as Brutii is to move your army quickly to Thermon and to take Thermon out quickly before Greece can become a powerhouse. You want to move quickly and get rid of them. I can't stress that. I know I'm saying a lot, but get rid of them quickly, because if you let Greece build up, they will be tough to beat. And if you get Thermon, it will 100% of the time have a practice range there, and you will be able to train Velites right on site, which will be huge going up against Macedon and the Greek cities, because they have tons and tons of hoplites, and the best way to deal with hoplites is with missile units. Your Hastati will flee and break and die against them. Even if you maneuver them well enough, it's just very difficult with them, even with their Pila. Velites and archers are the best way to go about it, as well as equites, but they're less important than the missile units. And again, you've got this kind of core Italian production zone. These two cities, Apollonia not super great, but Thermon will help. And that Athens is a rebel city at the beginning. It's kind of tough to make it through Thermon and get to Athens before Macedon has picked it up as a city, but sometimes you can do it. And honestly, even if they have, I usually just attack Macedon anyway and put myself at war with Macedon and the Greek cities at the same time, because Macedon's forces are up here and they're usually dealing with Thrace, like I am right now. They're usually tied up, and Greece is spread out. They've got Sparta, they've got Pergamon, they've got Rhodes, but they're all spread out. They can't really concentrate their forces on you, and so you can kind of pick them apart. You just take over the southern part of Greece here. I like to split my forces up and send one down to Crete, which is a rebel settlement, and get Cretan archers, because again, hoplites are tough to deal with, and Cretan archers are, in my opinion, and probably objectively, the best ranged unit in this game. And so it is super great to pick those guys up. And then I just have that army sail off to Rhodes and take Halicarnassus, which is also a rebel settlement, which for me it was still a rebel settlement, even though I got here kind of late. Usually the Seleucids or even Greece has picked it up by then, but I got lucky. And then from there, you can kind of figure out what you're doing. But after you've taken the southern island and kind of swept your way up here, then you deal with Macedon up here. You kind of just take them out. Again, once you get these cities too, they're all great cities. They produce a lot. I'm getting Principes out of these guys. I'm getting archers out of Sparta. And you just get really good armies really quickly. They produce a lot of money here. And honestly, Brutii gets so much money. I mean, look at this much money. It's like the first 25 turns, and I've got 1,000 denarii for each turn I have. Plus, I'm getting 8,000 more. Now, the problem with Brutii, or some things you want to look out for, is the Thrace and Dacia threat. Again, Dacia is just always a threat. They're not super good, but they're just kind of annoying to go up and deal with. And so once you get rid of Macedon, Thrace will come down with a fury. They're kind of a pushover. You can take them out pretty easily, but you just got to be aware of that threat. And then also, if you go quickly enough and your Roman AI is terrible enough, you might have to deal with both Gaul, which I did. They came in and started attacking Salona over here, which is also another rebel settlement you want to pick up. As you're going to Thermon, there's like a few units stationed here, so you can send a small force and take it. But Gaul tried to take it from me, and so I moved up here and just kind of kicked them out and beat them up a little bit so they'd leave me alone. And so I'm back in Batavia. And then the Scipii were doing terrible as well. And so I had to take Syracuse as my last settlement to get the win. This was the Greek army that was stationed outside. I just came in and took Syracuse, and that was the Brutii campaign. And I got another victory worthy of my proud Brutii ancestors. So a little bit different, but another victory. And that's the Brutii campaign. To win as the Scipii, you need to have 15 cities and take control of Africa. You need to eliminate the factions of Carthage and Numidia. And the best way to do that is by being super aggressive. The Senate tasks you with taking out Syracuse, and so you should attack that the very first turn. I bring my entire army from Messana with them to make it a little bit easier. Recruit a peasant Messana so you don't have an empty city. And I also like to get equites, or a stable for equites. So in the future, I can start building a cavalry presence here in Sicily. Now, the way to play Scipii, the way that I play Scipii, is a little unorthodox. So on the very first turn, I'll put all these guys in here, and this guy too, and do the same thing of building a peasant here. And I'll actually send this boat over to here to Carolus really quickly, because if you don't do this, I find without fail, the Julii will send one of these armies after they take Segesta in this boat, and they'll take Carolus from you. And Carolus is a super nice city because it gives you pretty good amount of money and like never revolts because it's super small. And so getting that really quickly is just a really nice start to your campaign. But after you've taken Carolus with this army and Syracuse with this army, there's one more city on Sicily, and it is a Carthaginian city, and it's defended by a pretty good army. But in every Scipii campaign I've played on, the Carthage will move that army onto a boat and start sailing it this way, which is why your boats are really important, especially this one, because if it can sink that ship or even just like make it flee all the way over here, you've basically crippled Carthage's starting military, and it makes it so much easier for you. Okay, so I've loaded into my finished Scipii campaign, and you can see I took Sicily, I took Carthage, which after you get rid of that one ship with all the Carthage's military, they don't really have much to defend themselves. So you can take Carthage pretty easily and Thapsus pretty easily. And then Carthage is basically a non-factor. They've got Palma over here, which, like I said, the Julii love to snatch up these islands. And they even cut into Spain a little. But Carthage only has Palma and Corduba. And in my campaign, Spain actually killed Carthage before I could. I was busy taking out Numidia, and Carthage got destroyed. I came over here anyway because I needed to expand, but once you take this tip of Africa, Carthage, you basically don't have to worry about them anymore. And then at this point, this is where my campaign gets a little unorthodox and gets a little bit even more aggressive, and you have to be able to divide yourself really, really well. You have to be able to manage yourself. What I do is I send one army down here to take Lepsis Magna, which is a rebel settlement, and then I send that army down through all of these super far away cities to take out Numidia, because Numidia is not a strong faction. Their protection is that their cities are so far away from each other that it takes forever to kill them. But you don't need that much strength to take them out. I mean, I left Libyan mercenaries, 2 peasants, and then this was my army that took them out. I think I had 2 Numidian mercenaries too, which are basically just militia cavalry, but they really are a really squishy faction, and you can take them out very easily. So while you send a small portion of your force to do that, I sent a ship out of here to come take Cyrene and Crete and all these little islands, because if you just take the African cities and the little bit of Spain that Carthage has, you won't have the 15 cities you need. And additionally, all of these African cities do not provide you much income. That's one of the struggles of the Scipii campaign, is getting money. Like, look, this city gives me 332, or I guess it is on low, but they'll revolt if I put it too much higher. But even on high, only 400 denarii or money or whatever. That's not very much. So coming over here and getting another source of income is really, really huge. And then at the same time that you're doing that, you also want to send an army coming to Spain, because even though in my campaign Spain took out Carthage, these cities are pretty good, and you want another way of expanding, because over here you kind of extend yourself a little bit too far. I mean, look, the Seleucids and Egypt are mad at me, so you've got to kind of back off a little bit. But if you come over here and take Spain, then you've got kind of a nice little base of operations if you continue on into the long campaign. And then another just tip I would say is when you take Syracuse, you should build a legion barracks, because that lets you get Principes, and then you can have a unit of Principes, a unit of Equites. That's why I built the stables here. And you can just start churning out massive armies here and just sending them out on your boats. Some other tips for the Scipii campaign is that a navy is key. You've got to have a lot. I mean, almost every city I have has a port, because you need to have a strong navy, because you're not on the mainland like the Julii campaign or even the Greece campaign. You're pretty close together. The Scipii campaign uses boats the most, so you've got to have a strong navy. When you take a settlement, you should choose the option to exterminate populace, because you're going to be dealing with a ton of public order problems. The culture penalty is really bad, and then also you're really far away from your capital in Capua, and so that'll hurt your public order. Even it got so bad for me that I think it's a better idea to move your capital to Carthage, which is what I did, because that just is more. Carthage is more the center of my empire at this point, not Capua. This is like the very northern part of my empire. So I would recommend moving your capital once you get enough territory to where that becomes a problem. And then the other thing, again with Africa and it being so far away, watchtowers are your friend. I built a watchtower like every move after when I had the territory and I could, just because you can't spot rebel armies, or you can't spot where the Numidian army is that you're trying to take out. I had like a whole little wave along here. You just keep building watchtowers. They're only 200 denarii each turn, and they are super, super helpful. And hopefully you'll get through the long trek through Africa and finally get to the Numidian last city of Siwa, which is so far away. And you'll be able to get a worthy and noble victory over Carthage and Numidia as the Scipii. That's the Scipii campaign.